Hey, it's Jason with J. Allen Photography, and welcome back to episode 2 of the podcast, The Early Years. Thank you for coming back. If you missed the first episode, feel free to go check it out. If you don't want to go check it out and you want a quick recap, here is the recap. I started photography around 2005 with my very first Mustang with a point and shoot Canon camera. Quickly outgrew that and moved over to a digital Rebel, and I kind of stuck there and hung out there for quite a while. From 2010 to 2012, I actually felt like I was, or thought I was, a portrait photographer, family photographer, that type of thing. I really didn't learn much other than how to be frustrated. I didn't know the basic fundamentals of photography. I didn't know the exposure triangle. I didn't ever learn off-camera flash, and I was not consistent at all. The only thing I was really consistent with was not using my camera. 2010, 2012, I actually was getting ready to move to Baltimore, Maryland area, and I decided to go ahead and quit photography. And so I put the camera away, put the lens away, packed it up, stuck it in a box, and only pulled it out for family photos, pictures of my daughter, stuff like that. And so that basically catches you up in the recap, and here we go with episode 2. So here we are, me, my wife, and my daughter, living in Maryland, and we're near the Baltimore area, and we really liked it, but as I kind of mentioned, I had quit photography. I did not want to compete with photographers who were learning every day the basic fundamentals. And so this base that I was attached to, they were teaching DoD photographers everything photography, that was going to be their career. Well, that wasn't my career. I was a videographer. So I knew a little bit, but I didn't know a lot. And I just was like at a point where I'm like, man, I don't really want to compete with people that actually know what they're really doing. And in this area where we're going to live, it's just going to be flooded with young photographers. And I wasn't getting any better. So I was like, I'm not even going to try. So I really kind of put it away and started learning and enjoying other hobbies. I kind of like I was running away from photography, right? I was just doing anything and everything outside of photography. I actually was over 35 at the time, and I was playing in an over 35 men's baseball league, which was absolutely a blast. Getting to kind of live out some of those boyhood dreams playing baseball under the lights, and I'm not talking softball, slow pitch. I'm talking hard ball, curved balls, sliders, wearing a cup, playing with a wood baseball bat under the lights in the summer, and it was absolutely fantastic. Loved doing that. Was enjoying hanging out with my family. It was just kind of us and some friends, but just hanging out with the family. Then I started kind of picking up repairing, rebuilding, reselling Apple computers. I've actually always been interested in computers, but this was like I had never even gotten into Apple computers before, and I picked up one from a friend, and I quickly learned, hey, this thing is just like a regular computer, just with a different operating system. So I kind of upgraded it and saw, wow, this has got some really good capabilities, even though it's got some age on it. So I started flipping Apple computers. I would fix computer or the iPhones, fixing iPads, laptops and their iMacs. And so that was really fun, and I was actually making some money on it. And quickly, it turned into something that I was making decent money on it as like a side hustle. And so maybe this episode should have been the side hustle, but that's really what I was loving. I was loving working on these computers. Well, fast forward to 2016, January 2016, I am at 20 years in my Air Force career, and so I retired. We moved from Baltimore back to San Antonio, and I still wasn't taking pictures. I really was basically had quit photography. Now, if you're tracking from what I said in episode 1, my daughter was fairly young then. Well, now here we are in 2015, so she is 14 years old, right? So 14 years old, getting ready to be high school type student. And what do high school students want? Homecoming pictures, prom photos, and eventually senior photos. But that's not yet to come, right? But also we were living with family, we, kind of while we were in a state of change. And so I had some other built-in models. My nieces were like 17, 15, 12. And so I had like 4 or 5 built-in models, including my daughter, that I could actually practice on. And so that definitely came into play eventually. But I'm still fighting it, right? I'm still doing other things. I'm still playing baseball, but now I'm playing baseball in San Antonio. I'm still working on computers. And then I even decide to buy a drone. And the drone actually is probably something that really kind of started to get me back into photography. So it was like a Mavic Pro, very good drone. And I was learning it and flying with it and enjoying the video aspect of it, which again is still creation, still creativity. But I was enjoying that. And that kind of started bringing me back around a little bit to the still photography side. But I was making some really decent money selling the Apple computer. So, the photography thing was still kind of a distant out there. The computer thing was, I came back when I retired and spent like 6 to 9 months just like grinding it out, pushing out like advertising type stuff. And I built up a really nice little clientele for Apple repair. People would call me up, hey, I broke my iPad, my phone's broken, hey, my MacBook Pro is not running as fast as it used to, what are some issues? My iMac, same types of thing. And so, I was able to go out and quickly assess what the issue was with these computers, fix them for a pretty good price. And then, of course, they're paying for my time, they're paying for the repair. Or I would buy them on eBay, fix them up and resell them and make some pretty decent money. I know one, for instance, I actually bought for like $80. Turns out that it actually still had an Apple warranty on it. I took it to Apple, they repaired it for free, and I turned it around and sold it for $800. Boom. Loving that, right? That's massive, massive, awesome profit right there. I loved that. So that was still kind of like my push. The problem is if you're tech savvy with computers, definitely Apple stuff, nowadays they're like soldering everything in. So I could see in 2016, 2017 that this was going to run, my little side hustle was going to run dry soon. So I was going to need to figure something out because I wasn't going to be able to upgrade RAM or upgrade hard drives anymore. I was going to have to figure something out because now they solder in the hard drives, they solder in the RAM, everything is all together. So I kind of saw the writing on the door, hey, this is going to come to an end. You're going to need to figure something out. Still playing with the drone, having fun doing that. And so that was fun, but I needed to figure out where I was going to go from there. I was able to get my degree. I did like the 20-year degree plan, but I got my degree that first year that I was retired. Thank you to my wife for allowing me to do that. She basically worked and said, hey, just get your degree, finish up, and then you can get a job after that. And that was really awesome for me. My daughter at this point is 15, niece is 16, then an 18-year-old, a 13-year-old. And of course, guess what? They're wanting some photos. And so I'm like, they're asking me to do it. Natural light, I could get decent natural light photos, but I still wasn't the best. I wasn't confident, but I was like, okay, let's do this. And so I would use them as my models and practice with them. And so I was learning a little bit or getting better a little bit, but it was still slow and it just took me a while. But I wanted to figure it out. I'm cheap. If you know me, I'm cheap. I know that I can do this photography thing. I just need to figure it out. And so at this point, because now I've learned how to do the Apple computers, and one place that I learned how to do Apple computers was YouTube. So I go to YouTube. And sure enough, there is so many people on YouTube teaching. And I was lucky enough to come across Jared Polin. I don't know if people watch Jared Polin on YouTube or not, if any of the people that watch me do, but immediately I was drawn to what he was doing. Frodo's Photo is his YouTube channel, and he's actually very blunt, very straightforward. He might even come off as, arrogant or whatever, but if you can kind of get past that, he is a wealth of photography knowledge. And I remember one of the episodes that I watched, he was talking about the exposure triangle. And here I am. This is like 2017 now. So really 7 years after I kind of picked up the first detachable lens camera thinking I'm a photographer, 7 years later, he's talking about the exposure triangle and what it actually does to your images, what it does to your photography. And it was like a light bulb just exploded in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what this is doing? And I just couldn't believe that it took me that long. But once I saw that, and once I was able to understand more what those things were doing in the camera, I immediately went from the aperture priority, shutter priority, auto. I went to manual, and I started shooting in manual and just really learning what the camera was doing. And it was like night and day what happened with the camera. One of the main reasons I was actually on YouTube really wasn't just to learn photography. It was more so to learn off-camera lighting, because I wanted my work to stand out from others. Even though I still didn't fully understand photography in the first place, I felt like off-camera flash would set my work apart, and I do think that it does. And I'm grateful that I actually went there to look, because I found photographers that were teaching it, but they also helped me learn the parts of photography that I was missing. And so if you're out there and you're a photographer, don't just think you know it all. Find people that know more than you do. It's always better to find people that know more than you do, because then you can learn from them. I still follow plenty of people on YouTube. And what I was actually at this point finally able to do was realize just what a grind it was going to be to learn photography and to start growing as a photographer. I learned that, from that Apple selling thing, fixing computers, and that it took me a long time to kind of build up that clientele. And it was a daily thing that I've got to get out there and do this and do this and do this. I found some people on YouTube that I really liked, and I wanted to mention them here. And they're not all photographers. Yes, they're all kind of storytellers, but they helped me. And so, I found Peter McKinnon. A lot of photographers know Peter McKinnon. Matty Hapoya, full-time filmmaker. And the reason I watched Full-Time Filmmaker was he was more doing the video side, and because of that drone work that I was doing, I was looking to learn more video storytelling techniques. And that's kind of where also Peter McKinnon and Matty Hapoya came in, is they're more visual storytellers in the video world. Even though McKinnon comes from a photography background, but very much a visual storyteller. So I was learning from them, not necessarily to build up my videography side, but what I really learned from them, and probably the most important thing from them, was their grind. They were doing it all the time. McKinnon, I think, hit 1 million subscribers in a year, which is absolutely insane. But he was literally doing it all the time. I think Jaron Poland says when he first started his channel, his YouTube channel, he posted a video a day. And so that's really where I started realizing that to become a good photographer, you have to be at this constantly. It's got to be your lifeblood. It's got to be what drives you. And for the longest time, it wasn't. It was something that I wanted to do, but not something that I was willing to work at to get better. And so seeing these YouTubers really just kind of, again, was opening a door to my mind of what kind of work I was going to have to put in order to make my photography grow. And so, yes, they weren't really showing photography tutorials, but it was really just getting into that mindset. And I think I spent about a year following these people on YouTube, just getting into that mindset. And it really helped get me into that mindset of grinding. It really helped me get into that mindset of grinding it out, growing your photography, doing it daily. And that's the only way to get better. And so I really thank those guys for doing what they did so that I could see what it was going to take. Of course, I did find some photographers, and I'll list those. Jason Lanier, he's an off-camera flash photographer. He uses primarily LED lighting, Rotolite. Irene Rudnick is another photographer. She uses natural light, and I didn't follow her at first because I was like, I want to get away from natural light. But if you don't know who Irene Rudnick is, y'all need to go check her out. She has some absolutely incredible natural light portraits. She knows how to use off-camera lighting, but she prefers the natural light. And so she is a phenomenal photographer, a massive following on YouTube, and I'm so glad that I found her when I was learning or kind of relearning. And then Manny Ortiz. I think Manny Ortiz, at least, that first couple years of his channel were my personal favorites. And I think I kind of tried to style my work more after him. I liked his look. I liked the way he shot. Everything that he was doing, I was really buying into. And so as far as my off-camera lighting goes, I credit a lot of that to Manny Ortiz and his early years in YouTube. They just really helped me out. But, those several YouTubers that I listed were game changers for me. Without finding them, I don't know if I would actually be where I'm at today in photography. They just showed me kind of the way that I needed to do photography for myself. And that was on a daily basis, eating, sleeping, drinking it. And so that's really what I did. And I really think that they are to credit for my success. Yes, I did the work, but without seeing a guideline, without seeing something off in the distance, seeing others who have made it work, and then kind of being able to tell how they are making it work, I don't know that I would have been able to do that for myself. And I honestly think, as I look back, that Apple repair business that I had truly helped me also, because it put me in that grinding mindset. It kind of got me to the point where I'm no longer thinking of photography as a hobby. I'm thinking of, how can I make this into a big side hustle? How can I make this work? And so, without boring you anymore, I really kind of started in 2019. I started doing more collabs, more TFP, and I wasn't taking no for an answer. I decided, if people want to shoot, I'm going to shoot with them. I might not get any money from it, but I'm going to shoot from them. I remember two specific shoots that I did, and they were actually in 2018. My niece's senior photos and a big family friends. They wanted a big family photo. So the niece's senior photos, it was the first session that I went out with off-camera lighting that I actually got and I came back and had pretty much everything the way that I thought it should be. Not everything was perfect. Not everything was good. But I knew what I was actually doing out there. And that was awesome. And then the big family, it was a big family of like 13 or 14 on this bridge in San Antonio. And this was the time where I needed to use 2 lights. So first time I'd ever used a 2-light setup. And here I was, I lit them with 2 lights, and it came out the way that it was supposed to. So those 2 shoots in 2018 were like, Jason, things are going to work. You just got to keep making it work. And so 2019, I spent grinding. Like I said, I started doing TFP all the time. I joined some local Facebook groups that were, photographers and models and stuff like that. And so anytime I saw models looking for photos, man, I'll shoot with you. I'll do it. My thought process was, if they don't like my work, they're not going to ask me to shoot again. And the first one I did, she was like, she had modeled before in Brazil, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. She wanted to kind of get back into it. So I was happy to work with her, and the best thing of all, she loved the photos. I look back at 2019, and I look at those sessions, and they're still pretty good. They hold up. I probably would edit them a little bit differently, but they still hold up. She liked the photos, and she reached back out and said, hey, would you like to do it again? And right there, man, there's that not that ego boost, but there's that confidence builder, right? We were like, oh man, they like my work. And so I spent 2019 grinding, shooting 4 or 5 times a week. I mean, it was the whole year I was shooting. 2020 was like that too. Yes, we had COVID, but I was still able to grind and shoot pretty much as often as I felt like I needed to shoot and to grow. I wasn't getting a lot of paid gigs, but I was still kind of growing and learning. And so I don't feel like I lost out on any money. I just felt like I gained so much knowledge in 2019, 2020, growing my work, that it was so much more beneficial for me than getting paid. I did have a couple of paid gigs in those years, but it was all a growing and learning experience. And that was incredible. Now, as opposed to years ago, I don't want to set the camera down. Even now, I don't shoot 3 to 4 times a week. Sometimes I can get 3 in, but I don't do that. I don't feel like I need to, but I still do try to shoot at least once a week. But I'm not in that grinding aspect of the photography world anymore. I don't feel like. Yes, YouTube and probably the podcast, but as far as photography goes, I don't feel like I need to, but I still want to. I want to be in that creative space. And so I still do try to shoot as often as I can shoot. I just can't always make it, 3 to 4 times a week like I used to do that. But I don't have time to do that anymore. Now I've got a lot more paid work that's coming in, and that takes precedence over collabs and TFP. So that's basically it. That's my journey. That kind of really brings me up to now. It was hard. Like I said, it was a 7-year growth process for me, really, from 2010 to 2017, where things actually started clicking. And I sure pray that is not how long it has taken you to get to your point. And if it has, then maybe realize there's still hope. It's not over for you if it's taking you this long. But if it is taking you this long, maybe you need to reach out to photographers and say, hey, can you help me? What can you do to help me? Or what do I need to do, rather, to get over this hurdle? And so maybe that's where my podcast can come into play. Maybe that's where the channel can come into play. So thank you again for listening. I really do hope that you've enjoyed it. Hopefully now you know a little bit more who I am and why I do what I do. I absolutely love shooting portraits. I love portrait photography. I love working on the YouTube channel. It is so fun to me to be able to show people what I'm doing. And I just have really, really enjoyed it. The podcast, we're now 2 episodes in. I like it. I enjoy getting to talk. Granted, I need to drink more water as I'm doing it. But again, thank you so much. Know that it is a struggle. It is a grind, but you got to stay at it. Keep motivated. Reach out to those who can help you grow. Be willing to take that constructive criticism and go to find places where you can learn. And they don't always have to be photographers. They can be other people that are in that grind process, and watching and seeing what they do can really just help you grow. Stick with me. Please tune in for the next episode. Tune in for my YouTube channels. Follow me on Instagram. And until next time, keep shooting.